how we try to developing environment-friendly project. And I would like to say that our project tried to find the innovative solution to improve our ecological urban footprint. Our method complied with the different criteria of environment certification for the public space, and for example, you have the LEED, BREEAM, or HQE. The first, let me illustrate a few of these criteria, and I will start with the large project, like we see in this picture, and urban planning and master plan. Then I will try to explain to you how is the layout and the project design. We have a work everywhere in France, and we work across the world, especially in China and in Russia too. Alors, the first step is the master plan and urban development. This is the picture of the Olympic Park of Sochi, and we designed a new project, and we tried to find a park with a specific basket for design a new face of the park. First item of the urban and planning master is develop the green infrastructure. And this slide shows the dual linear tramway system. We implemented a grid punctuation continuity to benefit the pedestrian use, but also the bike, facilitating to link between the train, tram, and bus station. We designed different planted areas, square, border, line of trees, and in order to improve green continuity into the town. Another example of a green infrastructure is the landscape of Nanjing Qinghai River in China. We work on the better appreciation of the neglected and forgotten historical riverbanks by the creating of the parallel walkway on the left side of the picture. It's enable a better access to the docks as well as an insane city frontage viewed from the tourist riverboat. It's a connect popular public areas such as the bird market and the historic bridge, like you see on this picture too. Third example is connect with the transport and mobility. We imagine in each project for all kind of mobilities issue. For example, for the sideway of historic park or natural park, or for this project in Issy-les-Moulineaux. This is the Great Paris project, because this place is separated with the big difference of level between the lower town, where is the station, and the upper town, where were many people. And it was difficult for the people to connect the station. And we imagine to connect the station to the site where they live. And we imagine that we can put an escalator in the natural area. And now the connection is not a functional connection, but it's a wonderful place where you can go through the nature before work and after work. It's fantastic for the people. Another project is competition is the tender of Zar-Riadier Park, but we didn't win the competition of this park. It's an American colleague who win the competition. I think it will be a beautiful place in Moscow. And our work was integrate the facilities, in the big park, guided by the theme of the music. Children play area, resting area, and eating facility. These pictures show how the landscape design have to promote the well-being in the city area, permitting various activity, rest, play, discussion, eating, movement, sport, in a green and agrarian surrounding. Something is very important for us. It's the continuity. Continuity in the landscape, and we, through this Capgemini project, it's a project close to Paris, we maintain the link between the past and the present. It's very important for us. Restoring the historical a park for the contemporary activity in a wooden parkland rich in biodiversity. This is the main intent. The time notion and the continuity nourish all the time the sustainability of our project. Another scale is the urban scale. This is an approach of the restoring of the botanical state garden in the Réunion Island. Is similar to the previous one. The linear design of the city continue into the garden. The formal continue to improve accessibility and consequently the use of this garden for the contemporary activities. And the last one is the ensure continuity in land planning. At the large scale, we work on the continuity of the movement in the land, in the landscaping of a public reception facility in Chantilly, close to Paris, close to the Charles de Gaulle airport, not very far. And the aim was to match the planned tourist facility and the town urbanism on the basis of historical road. All infrastructure, castle, car park, road, racehorse, stable were reintegrated in an over system preserving the woodland and its hedge. And now, the second part is the layout of design project. We make a this is a project in China. I will make more picture after, but something is interesting. This picture is a little bit strange, but it's a project. It's a project who try to explain to you how we make to good use of energy and resource. In this case, our concept of luxury aquatic resort in Ometepe Island in Nicaragua reconciles sustainable principle and local development consideration via the installation of independent floating platform. Independent platform is a little point, and just in the middle, this is the lobby of the hotel. All it's sort of big boat. You live in the middle of the nature of the lake. We elaborate a self-sufficient system through the water management, energy, food, and service supplies with an economical and environmental viability of our project. The fact of the most of the hotel float and the lake reduces its ecology impact and on the protected and listed coast. It's the same thing for the energy and the light. We use on each project, we use energy and resource also like the intelligent light system, LED lighting for instance, which switch on when the people walk by and try to respect the night time and the daytime for the cycle of the local flora and fauna. To promote all being, and we create a public living space. In this photo of Capgemini Business Center, the idea of promoting contemporary activity in the historic site lays in the implementation of the convivial terrace of the historical park, and on this picture on Royaumont, it's close to Paris too, we plant our stage so as to valorize the surrounding and increase the visitor comfort, elevated bed, intimate walkways, dense plantation. And it's now how we can use the environment, stimulate the biodiversity and reduce the impact. Our plan shows is harmony with the biotope all the time, soil, climate, sunshine, water, and aim to bring out the sensitive perception, sign, test, hearing and smell, but not only in the garden, across the city is very important. And now we have a presentation for you, a project for the landscaping of Puku Large Avenue in Nanjing in China. We designed a large avenue planted with more 10,000 trees and 20,000 shrubs, 4 gardens and 3 public areas. This operation was based on the ecological component with a plantation of 25 hectares of urban forest in the new business city center. The Green Act as a natural air conditioner and reduce air pollution. The second compartment, this is during the works progress. The second compartment was cultural. The space offered to motorists and pedestrians an insight into the new landscape to live and to enjoy. Varieties of colors, this is a picture in another place in Paris. Varieties of colors, renewed effect of plants throughout the season. And one of the last picture, it's we practice the art. I think it's very important on the work, on the focal point of perspective, including the work of the art in our design, in order to build a unique and innovative space integrated in the time continuum. The designs carry out strong identity, but they must also to be flexible for use, are evolutive. And the last picture is this picture echo with the first green slide of Green Paris. And we create remarkable views on the Paris metropolis. You see the Eiffel Tower in the night, and create a feeling to whiteness with a benefit for all the people who live in the town. Thank you for your attention.
Спасибо большое, Оливье, за вашу прекрасную презентацию.
Olivier, thank you very much for your brilliant presentation. You have proven that landscape architecture is about to, fulfill all the principles that Tatiana mentioned: the creation of comfortable environment, conservation of biodiversity, right? Sustainable development. It's all about landscape architecture as well. But we have questions also, but sorry, I have a brief comment before. Thank you very much for your brilliant speech. But we used to create, parks in order to underline how beautiful the buildings around are. Right now it's quite vice versa, right? We create parks in the very center of the city, Megalopolis. We create parks to show how beautiful the trees are. We have to, we try to make parks an integral part of the city, and we try to avoid, we try to avoid a situation where the buildings are more important. And what about landscape? Well, what you told about the link between your projects, landscape projects, with people who live there and who use them. It's very important because we work for people, right? People are our final customers. In Moscow, we have a survey portal, and they include surveys about the landscape projects. These are very important. People are really very open to to express their opinions. They recommend us a lot. They have a lot of insights. So my question is, what other technologies could you suggest to to involve more and more people to participate? How would you really involve people in communication about these landscape projects?
The question is very important, how the people can participate to the project. For example, in Paris, I will give you an example. We designed a new courtyard of the building, and all the people want to participate to the project. And for this project, we try to imagine a vegetable garden for the people, and they can make sort of agriculture in the park. This is the first thing. The second item is how the people can participate to the project. They have to participate during the conception. I think it's very important to have a connection with the official team and with the team of the landscaper architect. We have to organize discussion with the people, because when the project is accepted by the people, I think the project will be respected, and the project will be a great réussite. I don't know the word in English, excuse me.
Okay. Спасибо большое. Я думаю, что у нас будут еще вопросы.
Thank you very much. I believe we have more questions, but we'll postpone the Q&A till the end of our roundtable. And right now, we manage the communication issue. I mean, the communication between citizens and, well, the project team. Another issue is a question of presentation of the projects, that some, database that could prove the, vast experience of the humanity in this sphere. And, well, we have here David Basulto, one of the organizers and, well, the founders. Very interesting platform, archdaily.com. I believe that David's experience is very important for Russia. Please, David, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to be part of this discussion. I wanted to bring a different perspective to the problem of megacities from the side of information. ArchDaily is today the most visited website for architects who are seeking architectural knowledge, but it is done from Chile, from the periphery, and done by a group of people whose age average is 27 years old. This millennial generation that will have to face this very important issue of a world that moved very recently from being mostly rural into recently the urban age, with more than half of the population living in cities, and a process that's only accelerating. It is very important for me, these two concepts, ecological balance. Ecology, especially because this is a living environment in we as humans, we are biological entities that behave in a certain way in the city, and we shape its progress. So now that we are expecting that 3 out of 4 people in the next 35 years will be living in an urban environment, there are very important questions that change how we live and how we see things. And it's very important to see this in perspective, because as a biological entity, we experience a very slow growth at the beginning. It took us thousands of years to reach the first billion of human people. And very recently, thanks to modern medicine, to improvements in crops and in other conditions, we have found like a perfect environment to have this growth. And now we're growing very, very fast. If you can see, in the time span of our lives, we will grow by billions. And this is a problem that we haven't faced before, and that for sure that we don't have the answers. We're just in the dawn of what is happening. And most particular, this growth is not going to happen in the parts of the world that we're used to. This is not going to happen in North America or in Europe. This is going to happen mostly in the emerging regions. This viral image is very revealing about that. More people are living inside that small circle than in the rest of the world. This expect to be 7 billion people will only occupy like a 2 or 5% of the total Earth. We're going to be buried together. Well, this comes from your organization that shows in a much more revealing way where this growth is going to be concentrated. But these parts are also parts where this knowledge about the city or the advancement in architecture is somehow new. These are part of the world where these kind of things are very usual, sadly. The speed of growth, therefore construction, sometimes is even faster of what we call the speed of architecture, that is a very slow profession. And for us, this is a problem of information. The field is uneven and the opportunities are badly distributed. There are hundreds of thousands of architects concentrated in the developed world, and in the developing world where things happen very fast and we really need architects, there are very few, and especially there's very few knowledge in comparison. So that's what took us, well, to give shape to the mission that we do at ArchDaily, to improve the quality of life of these next 3 billion people living in cities in 35 years by providing inspiration, knowledge, and tools to the architects, because they are going to need help on this. And this is a very ambitious mission. You could ask, how come a group of 20-something people wants to improve the quality of life of billions? But recently, the humankind has reached a point of connection that for us is very important. It's the current state of networks. Today, the internet and the social networks have created a somehow mega conscious. And in this conscience, we're all aware of these problems. Today, what happens in Russia, me being from Chile, it is important. In the same way that for Russians it is important what's happening in the Middle East, in Asia, or in Africa. And all these issues, scarcity of energy, access to opportunities, the issue of the green city are common themes for everyone, being someone in Moscow or someone in Ghana. And perhaps this theme is now being widely discussed thanks to its apparition in the movies, in the general discussion. For example, a movie like this that puts today the question of what will happen once the Earth runs out of resources, which is going to be our future. And this today is science fiction, but it's coming closer and closer, and maybe it is not science fiction anymore. And we're seeing remarkable humans thinking, where are we going to grow next? What will happen once we populate this Earth of megacities and we run out of resources? But coming back to today, this is what we're facing. These are the kind of issues that we have to deal with. How are we going to live, relate to ourselves with connections, find love among tens of millions of people living together, and especially seeing the difference between us? Things such as disparity in cities is becoming more and more of a pressing issue. Or the type of growth that will happen in megacities that is perhaps going to be very distant from what we're discussing today. A growth that will happen almost with no rules, by non-architects, non-urbanists, no regulators, but for sure with people who are going to learn thanks to the networks, thanks to the internet. Or how are we going to deal with this, with the image that we have about the future, modernity, and the importance of the local things that have been there for thousands of years? For us, in the developing world, this is the image of progress that we're looking for, and perhaps that it is leaving behind very efficient, old traditional techniques. So that is when the world balance between this and this, for me, it's very important in this environment. We have addressing a problem of scalability for architecture. As I mentioned, we really need to grow very fast and deal with that growth. And as you can see, this is a problem of scalability. And who is addressing scalability in the world today? This is mostly happening at startups, tech startups that are providing solutions for billions of people via software. And this impact is starting to just happen in the city. What is happening with Uber or Airbnb or even Delano here in Moscow is really helping us to understand that the kind of growth that we have to do now is very different from what we have been used to. So as part of this future of the ecological balance, I want to leave you with the question of what startups and technology can do for this future development. Thank you.
Большое спасибо. У нас
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we started later than we should have, and by 1 we should finish, and so now we will speed up a little bit, and I would be happy to talk more and more, but maybe after the end of the session we will be able to talk informally, and I'm very sorry towards those who will not be able to present today. Now the floor has Ishiguri Sugo, Japan Ministry of Ecology and Waste Management representative. In Moscow, we do have this task to come up with a modern system of waste processing and management. So for us, it is a very important topic.
Thank you. First, I think I have to say sorry because my theme is waste, so it's not beautiful as we saw in the previous presentation. Thank you. And I think it's important because not only because of the nature of the waste, but it's important from the perspective of international community because we have agreed with SDGs and the Paris Agreement, and some targets in SDGs are related to waste management and recycling, and also from landfill side. if you don't manage the waste properly, methane gas, that is very powerful global greenhouse gas emission, can be generated from a landfill site. Anyway, okay. I have only 3 minutes, so I skip this slide. I would like to emphasize 3 points in the role of waste management facility. Firstly, a waste management facility is essential backbone for citizens' daily life and environment and sanitation for citizens. Secondly, we need continuous waste management. If you have some trouble with one road, for example, you may be able to use another road or train, but you cannot do in such way for waste management. Thirdly, waste management facility can work as energy supplier for local area. It can make the area more resilient. And move on to the laws and history in Japan. We can identify 3 different phases in our history. That is, one is health or sanitation phase. The second phase is pollution or environment phase. And the last phase is resource or material cycle phase. And the first phase, that is from the 1945 to 1970s. In this era, our waste management system was very poor, and we didn't have appropriate and enough facilities for waste management, such as incinerator and sanitary final disposal site. There were also conflicts between the government and local residents. And the next phase is 1970s to 1990s. In this era, we experienced a high economic growth and also changes in the type and amount of waste. We introduced more advanced regulations and measures for industrial waste issues and dioxin issues in this era. And the current phase, the third phase, is focusing more on the 3 R's: reuse, reduce, and recycle. And we have built better relationship with local residents by many ways, such as keeping good transparency and organizing local events. We are also encouraging people to practice the 3 R's. This is the figure on the current legal system on waste management in Japan, but I skip this slide. And finally, I would like to talk about waste to energy in Japan. And this figure shows how we treat the general waste, which is mainly from households. The total amount of general waste is 42 million tons per year, and the majority, 80%, is incinerated, and 30.7% is treated for recycling and other purposes. 5% is directly recycled, and 1.3% is directly landfilled. So incineration is very important for Japan. And this figure, this is an example of a waste incineration facility in Japan. The facility on the top of this slide is located in the most densely populated area in Japan. In such case, we have to get understanding from local residents. So local authorities made great efforts for it, and we introduced very sophisticated gas emission control for NOx, SOx, smoke, and dioxins. And this chart shows how successfully we have controlled dioxins from waste incinerators. We have reduced 98% of dioxins from 1997 levels. Okay? Yeah. Okay.
Спасибо большое. Я хочу сказать, что проблема управления
Thank you very much. Indeed, the waste management issue is very important for every Russian city, and technologies in this sphere is one of the priorities for the future development of Russian Federation. Your experience is vital for us, and we would like to invite you to Higher School of Economics to share your experience. We'll be happy to see you in our institution. Let us thank Mr. Suga. Thank you very much. And well, right now, I'd like to mention that, well, it's all very good to talk a lot and to discuss the ideas, but we need to discuss some real steps that we will be taking. What's about practice, right? Real cities create and will give birth to real companies, construction companies. And in relation to that, I would like to give the floor to Alex Soloshansky, Vice President of the Constructor Association of Russia. Dear colleagues, we've been given 10 additional minutes, but well, still a couple of minutes for every one of you. Thank you very much. Well, I prepared the presentation. I guess I'll skip presentation. I'll just outline briefly my position in 5 sentences. So my first point. Norms and regulation that basically regulate what we do, what we realize, what we do in practice. These legislative regulations are not made for people, really, so an ordinary man will never understand that. And if we talk with the usual citizens of usual city, we have to use different language, right? Because the terminology of these legal documents is impossible to understand. We have to adapt the terminology, right? There is such practice in the world. We have the set of rules. If we're talking, for example, about the parks, there is and some different document in New York, for example, written in different language. And the norm is that every citizen must have an access to the park, and it should take him not more than 10 minutes to get to the green zone, right? It's easier to understand, and I believe we have to reinvent this terminology. Another thing is, I believe we all are professionals and you're all well aware of that, but I have to underline that we have a lot of regulations, probably even more than our foreign colleagues, but from my practical point of view, these represent the system of criteria. If we're talking about 450 people for a hectare, right? Then the question is that whether these will guarantee the high quality of the environment. Can anybody answer this question positively? I can't do that. I can't tell you whether this is good or bad, whether this number of people for 1 hectare will guarantee for the future, the comfortable, living there. In the future, I mean, whether anything will change or not. That's why I believe that the key goal for us is to use more understandable language. Secondly, we have to create the system of evaluation criteria that will involve the opinion of people, that will involve the opinion of experts. And this coherent system should be put into new regulation document, right? Based on our experience, we have certain experience of creating the coherent system. We have that experience. We've been surveying people who live around, and we're trying to use this in our experience. And when we use, as more experience we use, as more expenses we are able to cut every time. Thank you. Well, I wish every investor would think the same as you, Oleg, do. But every technology truly become cheaper when we apply our experience. And now I would like to introduce to you Alexander Chulek, the Vice Director of the Foresight Center. This is the man who is working on the forecasting of scientific and technology development. Dear colleagues, very briefly, let's have a broader view of the urban development, like the macro format of it. Everything that we've been discussing recently, 3D printing, like digital projecting, smart cities, this is all consequences, and we have to look at the roots. What is at the very beginning? It's all about the global trends, and we can't really work on urban development without linking it to global trends. And there are 5 groups of these urban trends. First is the switch to technological wave, Internet of Things, smart cities, etc., etc. Secondly, the drastic change of the cost, right? Uberization. This is the first step. The maximal marginality of every project. The third, economy of knowledge, that is changing to the economy of practice. The systemic integrators in the broad understanding of this notion. In Russia, unfortunately, we do not have such business leaders that will be able and willing to rule this. Fourth, the cutting of the expenses. As an economist, I can tell you that the basic business model that we've been using in the consulting are now changing. We have to use other forecasting and design methods. This method is called foresight all over the world. In real practice, any investment projects will never survive without the forecasting part of it. And the last key point here is about competences. We talk a lot about smart cities, smart production, but have we ever thought whether society is ready for this smart stuff? We have to think about the behavior and the perception of people. I think that about half of the people are really willing to use this, but only small percentage of them are open to contribute their own money for that. But I hope will be very successful. And my favorite, Moscow and Paris, I would like to go to Paris after these pictures I've seen. I believe will be successful in that and will form all the competences required. Thank you. Thank you. Right now we give the floor to our colleague Ayjan Tugilbayeva, Vice Head of the Department for the Economy and the Budget Planning of the Akimat of the Astana city. Please.
I would like to thank the organizers and the government of Moscow for inviting me to this very representative and relevant discussion on ecology and urban safety. I would like to say that Astana is quickly implementing the principles of green economy. We have developed a program for sustainable development of the capital that includes implementation of green economy, also communal waste treatment programs. The population of the city has grown by 3 because Astana accounts for 11% of the GDP. We are very active in engaging and implementing the smart city model. And we are trying to invest in human capital. We have a growing medical cluster, and at the Nazarbayev University, we are now starting a business campus that will provide an opportunity to move in terms of engineering and technology to move forward. Next year, we will have Astana Expo 2017. A large event that will be mostly dedicated to the future energy of the future. I do invite you to please come and participate. We are very interested in new advances in landscape design, in ecology, in communal waste treatment. Please come and we will be happy to work with you. Thank you. Astana is different from Moscow because you're building Astana from scratch for the last decades, and I think you find it a little bit easier, even though you have a more difficult and harder climate. Now, I would like to make a small present to our delegates. This is an we have a lot of nature reservations, conservations, and in Moscow. So you will have a tour of those. You know, our foreign partners do understand that there are no bears walking. You know, on the streets of Moscow, but you can find them very close to the city. Technologies, yes, they are very relevant in building new megalopolis. Alexander, thank you so much. I thought I think we will be in touch. I find your topic very interesting. I have quite a gap in my education, and you will be able to tell me more about foresight model. Thank you again. Thank you so much. I think we have set the tone of the discussion. And the conference that Tatiana mentioned, Evgenia Gennadievna, you have key speakers here. And by midnight, please submit your applications, well, maybe even sooner than by midnight. I think that we have all the groups of interest represented here, so it's a platform for a new breakthrough. I thank all the participants for being here, and we only have 1 minute for one or two questions from the floor, from the room. Well, thank you. Sorry.